Didn't do great. Had some of my 5 of 6 golf lineups did okay actually. Like they were top 30 or 40 in big events, which surprised me that they were without the winner and having 5 of 6s. But not a great weekend, or I didn't play much anything else over the weekend. So Sheets, how'd you do? And then we'll jump into this slate.
So for those who recall our video, Lee Hodges was my best bet in that range, and with about 1 hour before lock, I had 40% of him, and I redid my entire build that ended up at 14. Yep, and that included having Lee Hodges in literally every one of my big buy-ins, and he ended up in 0 of them. And that's just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes.
Yeah.
I had a pretty good week, surprisingly, betting in MMA. Had a couple like big long shot props come in for people who followed it. That was fun. And then, it was kind of a tough week. And then I ended up cashing for $20,000 in a NASCAR event yesterday.
What? I didn't even see that. That's incredible.
Yeah, in the big one, the 444, I got second.
Amazing.
Yeah, so that was good. That saved the weekend.
Every weekend, you always come out with it. I don't even know about it.
Something nuts. So I posted. And so that was fortunate.
Oh, awesome!
Because baseball during the last last week or so, I mean, it's just been kind of rough. I got but I cashed like 555 for like the min cash or something like that. But it's I'm ready to improve my results. Let's put it that way.
Love it, though. That's pretty great. All right, well, let's pull up your screen and we'll go game by game. But Sheets, congrats. That's a nice way to save the week. And then some. All right, so let's get into it, and we'll go game by game here. It's a nice 9-gamer. There's a lot of different options. I don't feel like there's any like must play pitchers. There's a lot of guys we can talk through, but yeah. So
I'll give you. Well, I think it's an interesting slate because you have extreme Colorado chalk in a game that might not play. So that's very, very interesting, and it doesn't start till later, and usually they're pretty patient, they feel like playing, but according to Roth, I mean, this has got like legit postponement risk, and when you pull up all the sheets and the projections and stuff, I mean, they rate to be just extremely strong. So it's going to be an interesting decision of what you do, because you're going to have other kind of high upside spots earlier in the card that you might want to play. So it's and the other thing I will mention is that my concept for this breakdown is really, with respect to pitching, is literally what you want to do. In other words, if you want to pay up for hitting, there's one complete different way to go, and if you don't care too much about paying up for hitting, there's like other pitchers you could play. I don't know if you could do both. I don't know if you could do both. So it'll be interesting choices, I think.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, I do think that game does look really risky. The other thing about the Colorado game that I just want to throw out, that it's not like the ideal hitting weather in Colorado, if there's anything, and you have winds blowing in from it's still Colorado, but winds blowing in 11 miles an hour from left field. We'll get to that game when it comes up, but it's maybe it's an okay time to fade it. The only thing I would say is that what we've seen in these situations where it does look risky, nobody ends up playing it, and it looks like they're going to be chalky, and then no one ends up playing it. Sort of like the Atlanta was it Friday or Thursday? So just keep that in mind. Anyway, all right, let's go game by game here. First up, you got Milwaukee and Washington. I guess I'll start this one off really quickly. Corbin Burns is 10-2. It's an expensive price against a team that doesn't strike out that much, but it should subdue his ownership a little bit. I think he's completely viable as a pivot off of some guys. Some guys are going to be a little bit chalkier. And I think Milwaukee is not a team that I love stacking in general, but this is a decent spot. It's 83 degrees. It's in Washington and decent hitters park. They've got a 5 implied total. I think that Milwaukee is completely viable, whether you're stacking them or mini stacking them, and they have the value of the Monasterio, Toro, Terrain down at the bottom. Weimer, Frelick those are all really affordable to match with whoever else you want to play. That you assume Santana will end up starting there now, and then obviously Adames, Contreras, Yelich. I think everybody in this whole lineup is in play, so I'm good with Milwaukee.
Yeah, so. I'm pretty much in agreement with you on all of your points. First of all, the Burns is, he's been very good. and Washington has also been very good at suppressing fantasy points. So it's he rates for me as right now like 6th or 7th or something like that. But again, we're talking about two different types of pitchers. I think on this card, you're talking about spend ups and spend downs. That's the way I'm looking at it, at least. And he is one of the spend ups. I mean, we'll get to the top spend ups in a minute. But I have him a little worse, but he's really, really good. You know, does he have like that big ceiling? I don't know. I mean, I think he does actually. I mean, you know, because Washington does tend to not strike out too much, but remember, tendencies are, you know, maybe today they do. You know, I don't know. So if you get him at kind of lower ownership, I think it's certainly worth it. And then with respect to Milwaukee, I guess I should have summarized this. I have a total of maybe like 8 or 9 stacks I can consider, and I have 5 as kind of like my top ones, and I do have Milwaukee right in there among the top 5. So both on the value side and on the spend up, on the raw point side. So I like Milwaukee quite a bit. So I'm in pretty much agreement with everything you said. I do like Milwaukee, and I do like Burns a little bit as a pivot, but he's not my top option.
Next one, and
yeah. So Glass now is you know, for me is the top spend up. I mean, I presume he's the top. He's the most expensive as well. I mean, the Yankees are just a freaking strikeout machine right now, you know, and Glass now is a pretty good strikeout generator. So I think he's extremely strong. And if you play him, you know, it becomes more difficult to play San Diego spend ups. It becomes more difficult to play Atlanta spend ups and maybe some Houston guys or whatever. But he certainly rates to be a very, very strong play. It's just a question of whether you want to spend up to do it. Herman is one of a bunch of, I don't say a bunch, but some like 7K-ish type guys that are sort of in play, but I have him rated a little bit lower than some of the others. And I have him 6th or 7th top pitcher or so, but I just have some better options. But listen, in MME, I'll have him in here. And as far as the hitting goes, I actually do have some Tampa. Not exactly one of my top stacks, but right on the outside looking in here. So I think that you can get some business from 3 of the sides of this game. I do like Glass now. I do like a little bit of Herman, and I do like some Tampa.
Yeah, you know, the thing is that with the Yankees, like, yeah, look, this lineup is obviously better with Judge back. They're a middle of the road strikeout team, realistically. Like, we talk about them as if they're worse, but I think it's just more because it's sort of like that Yankee expectation thing. Everybody expects them to be better than they act. You know, I don't know. I think that if there's, I hear a lot of people say the Yankees strike out a lot, but I actually the numbers just have them as basically an average team. Glasnow is really good, so I don't think there's anything to worry about too much taking a shot there. I actually think that you can make an argument for Herman on the other side against Tampa Bay, who is a really high strikeout team against righties. So I think both these pitchers are in play, and I don't have either of them as priorities. That's where I'm at. I like the pivots off of Glasnow better than I think I like Glasnow today, just because of the ownership.
And not so much for the hitting here, huh?
No, I don't even know like who I would be taking. Tampa, maybe. I mean, like, it's not like I don't know. Maybe I'm on the short list of this, but like I don't think Herman is like some absolutely horrendous pitcher. He will give up. I mean, he will give up home runs every now and then, and he had a bad outing his last time out. But even his bad outing, like, he actually pitched pretty well. His strikeout rate is really, really good. Like, I mean, he still had 15 fantasy points and he gave up 6 runs. That's pretty hard to do. So yeah, I have both these guys definitely as in play, but at the moment, neither priorities for me. For what it's worth, the Yankees do have a pretty solid run total against the guy who might be chalk at 10-5. All right, Toronto, Baltimore. I'll jump in real quick with this one. I do think that Chris Bassett is in play at 7,500. He's another one of the cheap ones that I would consider. We know he's got a ceiling. Baltimore, like, it's a good offense, but I'm just gonna take a quick look at their strikeouts versus righties this year. I believe that they're lower down the list, but so is their batting average. Yeah. This is just an okay-ish spot, but I do think Bassett has the upside to make this a decent play. And I think you could definitely make a good case for the Toronto stack. I think that's something that I'll definitely consider. I don't think I would get to Kyle Gibson, but I mean, Kyle Gibson sort of has like another one that has upside, just probably not in this matchup. And it feels like a tough matchup for him. So I have Toronto as definitely in play, maybe just a little bit behind Milwaukee, factoring in price and everything else. But I think Toronto's in play.
Yeah, I'm kind of more into passing this game. But if I had to pick sides here, I do think Bassett always has upside, and I do think Baltimore always has upside also as far as hitting goes, and as does Toronto. You know what I mean? Like I think I'm going to get to all three of those sides. I don't think I'm going to get to Gibson, but I think I'm going to get to all three sides in my MME builds. But as far as priorities go, I don't think I'm going to get so much of any of it.
Yep, it makes sense. All right, moving over to Atlanta and the Angels. Look, I think Charlie Morton is completely fine. I'm a little bit, again, as the most popular pitcher on the slate. Do I want to go there? Maybe. The Angels have a pretty high strikeout rate. If you did, I don't know if you saw the Matt Chapman thing when Shohei's first at bat in Toronto. He had a home run off of Gausman, and Matt Chapman was screaming, "Why are we pitching to this guy? He's the only guy on your team who could hit." I just thought that was kind of funny. So Charlie Morton, taking on the fact that most of the rest of these guys, look, they're high strikeout. They're not a great lineup in general, and I think he's totally reasonable. I also think the Braves are a really good stack. The problem is, like, just want to point out, Canning's strikeout rate has been incredible lately, and I don't think it would be the craziest thing in the world to include him into your mix. He's not obviously a priority of any kind for me, but I don't think getting some Canning is a bad idea, and I think that it makes even more sense to just go ahead and stack Atlanta if you can find a way to. And that will be my goal, is to try to find a way to stack Atlanta as often is.
Yeah. So here's the thing with the Morton. I do I'm rated really, really high, and when I'm looking at it, the whole thing just seems kind of fishy to me. The other thing I would mention is that the Angels have like some new guys, and I don't know exactly who's playing.
Yeah.
So I think that's worth looking into. Not looking into, just waiting to see what Morton's projection and whatever is going to look like.
I don't think it'll change at all
if these guys get into the game.
Or the guys like that actually matter.
I don't know. That's the thing. So
yeah, that's what I was.
No, I don't know. So CJ Crone, he's there, and who else came? There was another guy, right?
Nobody who would change anything to me, but
okay.
No, I don't. I mean, look, yeah, you could argue there's maybe more risk because Crone has power, but like plenty of strikeouts there too.
Yeah, I didn't. This is one of those where if you asked me just to look at the salaries and say who would be like a good option, who would be whatever, like Charlie Morton at that price against I don't even think he would enter into my thoughts at all. And then when I run the projections or whatever it is, I guess the data supports it. I guess he looks like a great play, but I don't know about this. The thing I do know about is the other thing you mentioned is that Atlanta is like a team total of like 100 every game, right? So they're going to be, people are going to build some lineups to play them. Listen, it's hard to play that much of them because they're so expensive, but people are going to play them, especially to try to pivot from San Diego or whatever. And the Griffin Canning, I mean, you mentioned he has a good strikeout rate recently. I mean, not only that, but I mean, he's got, one that has to do with the other, but he pitched 120 freaking pitches against the Yankees. I remember this a couple of starts ago. Yeah. And 112 against Arizona. And this is baseball, man. You know what I mean? So you can get a guy who strikes dudes out at 7,200 against a team that people are going to play. I mean, I think it's a pretty decent idea, actually. I mean, like you play if you're looking to play for like San Diego's or maybe you play Houston's or something like that, like something where it's going to require you to save money. I think you could do worse than pair Canning with some of these other guys. And you're probably going to lose, whatever. But the fact that Atlanta's always going to get, especially on a slate like this, where people are going to play like probably some Pivetta, or some other guys, maybe whatever, to try to get to Atlanta. I think Atlanta, people are going to get to them. So if you plays a couple of canning lineups. I don't think that's the worst idea in the world at all. I think that's a good, decent call by you.
Yeah, and for a frame of reference, Atlanta strikes out roughly 1% more, roughly 1% less against righties than the Yankees do. So they actually do have some strikeouts in there, even though they're still a below average strikeout team against righties, and they are also the best offensive team against righties. But I think that could be a cool play to use going forward. Anyway.
Then we get to the leader of the free world. We get
there's no question that I would rather play Abbott than any of these other things.
Yeah, I mean, now you get to Adam. Is it Adam Abbott? Is that his name?
No, it's Andrew Abbott.
Whoever he is, he just freaking mows people down.
he's the best fantasy producer on this slate for the season. He's been the best lately. I'm sort of running out of reasons why we're not just playing this guy, and the fact that no one else seems to be willing to.
Well, the only reason we might not is again, and this is something I don't know yet. I mean, we have to obviously watch the wind in Wrigley.
The wind's blowing in.
Oh, well, there you go.
From the problem is the wind's blowing in from right field.
Whatever.
It matters because he's going to be facing a bunch of righties, which is it's going to suppress home runs and things like that to right field, not to left field, which is where more likely the righties would hit the ball. And it is a tough offense for what it's worth. Right. But I'm just going, like, if you're going to give me him at 1/6, 1/5 the ownership of these other guys, I just think that's just the automatic move. And as I've said it the last couple starts, and it's been 100% right. He's been the top scoring player on both slates, and he's been sub 5% in both of them.
Yep.
So I am definitely going to play Andrew Abbott.
And 113 pitches, 106 pitches. You know what I mean? The guy's a stud.
Yeah. Look at him. Nobody touches him either. It's like 1.9 ERA and pitching in Cincinnati. Yeah, and a .96 whip. I mean, like. Yeah, he doesn't get hit. So I'm in on this. I'm just going to make keep making this play. It's going to work out. Some nights it won't work out. It's going to work out every night. What are you talking about? He never doesn't work out. It's ridiculous. Now, on top of everything else, the Cubs are the 5th highest strikeout team against lefties in baseball. Just sign me up. Ian Happ's going to strike out 4 times in this game. I'm in on the Abbott. I'm not saying lock him in and that you shouldn't be mixing in these other guys, but I just think at the ownership, if I was scripting today, I would definitely get probably 5 or 6 times the field and have at least 25-30%, maybe higher, versus the 5% that he's going to be owned. And it should be mentioned that for the people that are not here all the time, that Marcus Stroman is probably going to project like a decent kind of medium projection type of play. But for GPPs, he's not the type of guy you want to play when you have like higher upside guys. So what is interesting about him is that he's in a price range that's not exactly stocked with options. But I wouldn't play him right now. Yeah, I think he's going to get some ownership. I'm just cool. I think he's a good real life pitcher. Outside of him throwing the occasional complete game, I'm not gonna generally try to target him for DFS. But certainly don't fault anybody else if they want to. It's just not my favorite thing to do. Yeah. So this is going to be and then in this next game, I think this is going to be the obvious spot. You know what I mean? If you don't play San Diego, is to just go play Houston. And they're going to be pretty popular. They're going to project really well, and that's pretty much it. I mean, you kind of hope that if you play Houston, that San Diego plays, I guess, otherwise, or that they're projecting to play. Otherwise, I think Houston's going to get pounded here. Nonetheless, I do like them. They have obviously base stealing upside to go with everything else in this spot, and I do like them. On the other side of the plate, not this, but the other side of the dugout, I guess. I do have Cleveland as like an okay value piece, but not like that great. But I think Houston is one of the premier spots on this. Yeah, it's hard. Syndergaard is definitely broken. I'm very happy the Dodgers got rid of him. Too bad. I always liked him as a guy, but just has never been the same. And what you get also with Syndergaard pitching, the problem is you have a lot of guys you're going to spend up. But this guy, I mean, they're going to run if they get on base. You could end up with like 4 stolen bases here, and even if the offense doesn't go crazy, they're just going to run on him. I mean, basically, I guess 1 through 4 will probably run. Jilks will probably run, and McCormick would probably. So six players that would be likely to run, maybe 5. But either way, that's plenty. So whether you're using Houston as a stack or a mini stack, I certainly think that they're viable. And like you said, I think this is going to be the natural pivot from the other game. And I didn't get to any Cleveland myself, but I definitely like the Houston thing, whether it's a full stack, whether it's a one-off, whether it's a mini stack, anything. I think that Houston is very, very solid. All right. Now we have the weather game sheets. So we can't talk about what we're going to do with the weather because it's too early in the day, but there are flood warnings. There's also like if there was no weather at all, Seth Lugo would be on my list of guys I considered. I've just watched Colorado just be so awful all year long. It would be hard for me to just completely cross out a guy who's 6,600 because there's a couple guys in that price range that make some sense. Anyway, San Diego would make a ton of sense. But again, look, the 11 miles an hour wind blowing in from left. It's not 90 degrees, it's 78. Still pretty nice, 50% humidity. It's still good hitting weather. But it's not but still, with 11 mile an hour winds blowing in from left and the weather concerns, maybe I certainly wouldn't at the moment do anything but stack or fade. But the problem is I don't want to stack a team that's this popular. So I think that it's probably just a fade for me and hope it doesn't go well. And the good news is we've got our guy Gomber out there who every time he pitches, everybody wants to stack against him and hasn't worked in months. So at least we got that going for us too if we don't want to play this game. And that would be my goal, is to try to stay away from it. If I did play anything, I would play Colorado, honestly. That's the one way you can get different with San Diego stacks. Colorado is going to be low owned today, and you can definitely play them.
Yeah, because I think Lugo's actually going to get some ownership if this game goes. Colorado's literally been that bad. Yeah, I mean, as far as the San Diego side, I mean, to quote our old to quote the guy who was actually on Morning Grind today, to go one of my favorites, to quote Mr. Priester, I think I'm just going to hit the X button on San Diego. I would do it anyway, right? If I thought the game was playing, just on principle.
Yeah.
And the fact that there's weather concerns just makes it easier for me, honestly. So, and listen, if you click the X button on San Diego and then you put up all these runs with like Atlanta or whatever, and listen, you're gonna have to stay up to like midnight before they cancel this game probably, and you might be up like all night sweating with your butt cheeks clenched, waiting for the big explosion to come catch you. But listen, I've taken that chance before, so I'm not gonna have a problem just Xing this game.
Yep. Only the one other thing I'm just going to add though is if you think that the ownership fades, I would probably take a gamble on playing that.
Yeah, but you know what? It's so funny. Like we have this discussion a lot, not you and me, but in general, and it never really seems to work out that way. Like
it did for Atlanta last week. It was crazy. Atlanta went from Atlanta and Boston were going to be the massive chalk, and they all ended up sub 5% owned.
Right.
And that's why everybody was freaking out in the Discord. And even like they haven't even scored any runs yet, and everybody's like, "No, we're pissed off because we always stack them, and now they're going to kill us." And they didn't score any runs, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So this next game, the Seattle Boston, this is going to be the worst kept secret cheapo of the week. You know what I mean? Like Pavetta is going to be like 1,000,000% owned, I think, tonight. And that's just the way it's going to be. I mean, he's got upside. He's cheap. You want cheap, to get to some of these guys, and he looks good. He looks good to me too. Which, and we'll get to something. We'll get to in a minute. Makes him a good kind of obvious play. I think Kirby's decent also at 8,600. We talked about that price range, with the Stroman and whatever. I think Kirby's in play as well. But I will say this: if people get too cute with Pavetta here, I have no problem just being all over Seattle as far as stats go. I mean, Pavetta is just that kind of guy. He could put up 40 and he can give up 40. You know what I mean, like, so to speak. So I like both sides of that between Pavetta and Seattle, and I guess Kirby as well. So I think this game is sort of a key game in a way.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, the Kirby thing. Like, I can't figure out exactly what to do here. He's a guy I really like to play because he works through innings so fast. We'll occasionally have a strikeout game, but mostly not a high strikeout guy. I'll tell you what, I'm just going to point out, if people are really going to play 25, 30%, if it gets to be that point of Pavetta, and you've got a guy in his last 9 starts that hasn't pitched more than 4 innings, and he's pitched less than 3 in 5 of them.
Yeah.
I don't know what I would tell you. And don't forget, they end up sneaking in an opener like they've done a few times to us, which then will turn the ownership a little bit against him. So it's a little tricky.
And that's when he got his 40 when he came
40, right. And the 40 was completely beyond fluky. And what's crazy about him has been the strikeout rate lately. And that's what's going to look so appealing. Like he had 13 strikeouts and he faced 20 batters in that game where he, it was Oakland too also. Yeah, I would be inclined to do a little bit of what you said and maybe get a little bit onto the Seattle thing. And it's not just to pick on Pivetta. One, they're really, really cheap, as they have been, partly because they've underperformed a lot of the season. But I would take some shots with them. I think that Seattle is a really interesting get weird stack, and I'm in on that. Kirby, I don't know what I'm going to do yet, but he's certainly on my list still right now.
Unless it's rough because Seattle mostly righties that you want to play. But yeah, listen, you get to play the leader of the free world. Like you get to play Cal Raleigh. You know what I mean? That's always a good thing to be able to do. So
yeah, Cal Raleigh. You get Mike Ford, who's super cheap, and yeah, I mean it is going to be a lot of righties for Pivetta. It does make sense on paper why people would play him. Yeah. I just want to point out that also what is his high for pitches in these games? I'm just going to take a quick look here because I really feel like this feels very much like something. Yeah, his high for pitches is 80. Basically so he hasn't thrown more than since May 16th. He hasn't thrown more than 80 pitches, and he's thrown as little as 15, as little as 6. Anyway,
before we go on to the last game, I did want to comment on something that you mentioned before about Ohtani. So the point that you made about Matt Chapman is something I heard someplace else, that they're really just as the lineup stands right now, like teams are just going to just start walking him, and I don't know whether that means that all teams are going to start walking him or just Toronto is going to just start walking guys like that. You know what I mean? I don't know what that means, but I think it's something to consider when you're dealing with guys that are 6,500. Like if you know that you have a $6,500 guy that they're going to intentionally walk, or pitch around or whatever, it's like a complete toss. You know what I mean? I don't know. Only because you mentioned it, I figured I'd bring that. No, listen, it's just 2 games, right? Just 2 games, but that could be a thing. Like every other time, listen, when you don't walk and he hits a home run, this is what Barry Bonds was. You know what I mean? Like he said, like all-time records, not only home runs but intentional walks. And that's just the way it goes. Do you
want to hear the craziest Barry Bonds stat that you'll ever hear, or maybe the craziest baseball stat? If you went 2 for 5 with a home run every day of the season, okay, so you have 162 home runs, you would still have a lower OPS than Barry Bonds had in 2004.
That's great.
His on base percentage was 668. Yeah, I mean, that's just beyond. How can you? That's crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. So we can move on to.
All right. So this game for me is pretty quick. I have nothing here. No, that's not true. Sorry. I have neither of the pitchers, but I do have Arizona actually as the 5th team. So I'd like to just wrap up. So I came up with Seattle as we were talking, but aside from that, San Diego, Houston, Atlanta, Milwaukee, and Arizona actually have as my 5th favorite team, which I wasn't expecting. So I'll let you comment on that, and I'm not getting to any of the pitching.
Yeah, I don't have Arizona. I do think both pitchers are viable, but not exciting. I think, look, if we're talking about the cheap spend downs, Nelson should be in consideration with these other guys. He's at least a real pitcher who's put up 25 or more or 23 or more fantasy points in 3 out of his last 6. There's upside against a San Francisco team that strikes out a lot. I also think that San Francisco is they're sort of rate for me a little bit like Seattle, like a sneaky stack that I don't think anyone's going to play, and they're affordable. So I'm open to San Francisco, but have other teams that I like better. My sum up of right now is I will probably play in my biggest buy-in. I'm probably going to play a chalky other option with Abbott. Right now, if I had to pick, it probably would be someone like Morton, or maybe Kirby. But I do think that getting a little creative and using some Abbott and Canning is a good way to differentiate on your pitching. Burns, I have ahead of Glass now, just factoring in ownership and everything, and that's really the main thing. I have the spend downs. I have Bassett ahead of the others, but not by much. And I think that of all the way downs, maybe Nelson might even be my favorite. For my stacks, Atlanta I have 1, Houston I have 2. Of course, ignoring the Colorado situation, but I do think that Colorado would probably come in there for me if that game was good to go. And the other team I'm considering is Toronto. And then we mentioned the Milwaukee, Seattle, San Fran, but I do like Atlanta and Houston the best. That's sort of the order.
I'll tell you, like Abbott Canning lets you play whatever you want. I think. I don't mean as far as salary goes, but I mean as far as ownership goes. Like you play Abbott Canning. I think that you could play. You could even play. I don't know why you'd want to, but I was going to say you could play San Diego stacks. I wouldn't even want to really. But if you play Abbott Canning and like Seattle, I mean, then you're single digit throughout your whole lineup. You know what I mean? You don't even need to do that, I don't think. But I might anyway. We'll just see. Like what happens when Pavetta gets through his 60 pitches and maybe he's not on or whatever it is? Last I heard, the Red Sox bullpen wasn't so hot. So anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess that's it. We'll be live at 6, right? Now again, just for those of you that I keep thinking everybody's here all the time, just go over again like the other stuff you put up. Like you also put up bets of the day also.
Yeah, I'll put my bets up. I've got a weird morning. I've got literally 2 meetings with like one an old family friend, one my cousin, and then I've got to go to the hospital to visit a friend. But the general thing that I'll put out is I'll put out my actual lineups. I'll put up my exposures for both by dollar amount and by percentage of ownership. I put out my core plays, and I put out my bets of the day.
Let me ask you this: the core plays, bets of the day, are all those premium or all those free? I lost track.
Yeah, they're all premium, and if I don't have time to load them on the site, I end up just entering it into the premium channel in our Discord. Because some days that run a little bit tight, like today, I might have to just put it in the Discord.
Yeah, when he puts his bets up as well, like we're I haven't really been tracking them, but we actually are partners with an app that helps track your wagers and your biases and stuff. And I know that Bobby's been using it, sometimes. Yeah, I mean, we're trying to get into the sports betting thing. We're not being aggressive about it. We're just treating it a little more like fun. Like Bobby puts his bets out of the day every. He doesn't bet like zillions on the games. Just for people that are interested in it. But we have a couple of people who like follow what you do and like bet like decent money on these things. So that's
I would encourage as much as my MLB has gotten better from our bet tracking system. I'm still significantly better at NBA than I am and even my MLB, what I've sort of rounded into is mostly betting on over-unders because it's sort of
really
most of my research is going towards over-unders and what I think anyway. So that's why I'm going to end up leaning that way. And not surprisingly, they've been my most successful bets have been the over-unders. Actually, unders being the most successful one because I don't bet them nearly as often, and they're almost always in Colorado. Unders that I bet.
Well, you want to tease a little bit? You want to give?
So I would say that right off the bat that as of right now, I think that Colorado would be my favorite under, and I think that my favorite over would probably be. That's actually a tough one. Maybe the Houston game would be my favorite at the moment. Although I think Seattle, even with Kirby on the mound, 7.5 seems a little too low. So that would be another one that stands out. Betting the over. Also, because we like that sneaky Seattle stack that you've got up on your board.
I'm gonna give one. I'll give one lead just for the hell of it. I'm gonna go with the Angels money line tonight. So we're gonna We'll give that one out just for fun.
I like that. I mean, that you're probably what are you getting, like 2-1 almost, I think.
Well, we'll tell you in a second.
I think it's 180 plus 180.
I'll tell you in a second. And just so you guys know, for those of you just that are not familiar, I mean, I put up stuff for tennis and everything else. So actually it's plus one. I'm getting 180 or the other way to do it is I could take the 1.5 runs at -110. What's interesting about that is like when I look at this stuff and I see like +180, 218, do you know how that just like offends my senses? Like when you see like a 38-cent like spread in like that, you just feel like you just have no chance. I mean, I'm telling you, that's the way I feel about bet sports betting.
Oh, wait, you think that you have no chance? Oh,
like beating the spread here. I mean, 38 cents. I mean, maybe you can, but to me, it requires like such an incredible like ego. You know what I mean? To think that you could beat a 38-cent line like that. It's possible. I guess people do it.
I was listening to, just real quickly, I was listening to an interesting podcast on one of the most successful NFL gamblers, and he'll only bet on teams that are double-digit underdogs.
Oh, really?
And he'll bet them outright. He'll bet them to cover, whatever. But that's his style. But his argument is just that, look, last year I think there was like 35 teams or something like that were like 15-1 or something like that, and or alternate the lines a little bit. And of those teams, I think like 12 of them won the game actually outright. They were like 15-1. Like, 20. Remember we had the 20-point favorites and down to the wire in a couple of those Bills games and things like that.
Well, you know what? What's interesting is like one of the things that are in our other product or this better takes thing that we think about sometimes is if you're the type of bettor that bets on underdogs, whether it be money, whether it be basketball, or whatever, and you bet on teams that are like 9-point underdogs and they win like outright a lot, are you even like, should you not just be betting the money line? If you don't even need the 9 points, why take them? So, and these are things that we kind of analyze, about betting histories and stuff like that. So
yeah, no, it's great. And then for anybody who doesn't, I'm actually going to attach the Discord in this link just for anybody who watches this video who's not a part of the Better Take stuff, but I do post my stuff in there. So, and some of my stuff in there as well. But I'm just going to include you on it. And I would encourage anyone to download the product and use it while it's still free.
Yeah.
All right. Good luck, everybody. Good luck, Sheets. Have a good day, and I'll see you at 6.
Okay. See you at 6.
All right. Sounds good.